lot of times I'll look for the agenda on there. Yeah.
Not enough traffic on the Route 15 picture on the website.
Yeah, right. Taken during the pandemic, obviously. Or is it? Wait, is it a real picture? Or is it
It's a real picture, but it's clearly
pandemic picture? Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I just looked at it on my phone. Yeah, they just started doing like the switch over this afternoon. Oh, okay.
Got a couple minutes. Georgia.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Not bad. So if you want the space, Trevor's not actually here. Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm trapped in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Might not be online tonight.
I
Wish I was in Vermont.
like opened an incognito tab because it wasn't letting me do it otherwise.
I can get online. I mean, I have connection, but it's.
My girls are big Office fans. And so if they knew that Trevor was in Scranton, they'd be like, oh.
That was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
I need to get my kids to watch The Office.
Yeah,
I
that's
need
what
to
I
do
did.
it to watch. Yeah, yeah. We did that with Parks and Recreation too. Oh, and also The Good Place.
We watched it through once but haven't gone back. It's phenomenal.
It is. It's where you put it up there with The Office and Parks and Rec.
Oh, easily.
Really?
It's more profound too.
Yeah. And it's got Ted Danson.
Right.
It's not bad.
And there's this. This isn't spoiling anything, but there's this moment in season 1 where Ted Danson does this evil laugh, and it's like perfect.
You would do a good evil
Yeah,
laugh.
it's the whole show turns on a dime when he does that. It's really cool.
Should I use a different? No, let me. Did you have trouble getting on the time outside too?
I ended up opening an incognito tab, and for whatever reason, it let me do it because I couldn't even get to the point of using Wi-Fi to use the Wi-Fi.
Shu's on his way, and he said he might be 5 minutes late, so I'd like to give him that guidance, and maybe we'll delay start until 6:35.
Sure.
Hi there, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi, we're joining remotely because we have a young daughter and can't get there during dinner time tonight, but I was trying to add just a quick message to the chat so we aren't interrupting during the meeting, but it seems to not be wanting to go through. Is that something that's going to be possible?
What's not wanting to go through?
I'll type a message and see if you can see
Oh,
me.
the chat.
Oh, I can see that the chat, yep, I can see test, but when I try to chat, it will not send it.
Okay,
Can
we don't
somebody else-
routinely use the chat during the meeting.
Okay.
So you're not-
Well, maybe I can just, before I get started, would you mind if I just say something and you guys could add it to the notes?
We have an opportunity for public comment, and that would be the
Oh, okay.
that would be a
Perfect.
good time to join that. Can you guys hear
Okay,
me
great.
okay?
Thank you so much. Sorry.
Can you guys hear me okay? Because I moved the mic out of my back a little bit.
You can move it a little closer.
No, I can't. I'm just saying, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, we'll go with that. All right, Shu's here. Everybody's here.
Trevor's online.
Trevor's online.
Yes.
All right, Sharon, you ready? You guys ready?
Recording in progress.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Planning Commission meeting on September 26th, 2024. We have to kick off any changes to the agenda that staff wants to add.
No.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Josh, seconded by Shu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I saw his mouth move. You're on mute? No?
Me? No.
Okay, just a delay. Remember that there's a little bit, looks like there might be a little bit of a delay with your audio tonight, so.
Okay.
Public to be heard. The next item is for anybody to offer us commentary on items that are not on the agenda. So, I'm gonna go to the lady that was online that waited?
Brooks family.
Brooks
Brooks
family?
family.
You had something, comment you wanted to add to us?
And could you just give your first name too, please?
And an address.
Sure. You said first name and what else?
Your full name and address, please.
Sure. Jennifer Brooks. We are, and it's Brookes. We are at 497 Sadler, Sadlar, Meadow Road, Richmond, Vermont. And I understand that that's not Essex, but one of the reasons we're tuning in today is that we use the Saxon Hill bike park quite often with our daughter. So did you want me to make my comment now?
The agenda tonight, then it needs to wait. If it's unrelated to the application, then you can offer your commentary now.
I believe it is related to the proposed development at Saxon Hill.
So why don't you hold, and then when we get to that portion, which won't take us long, you can at the point where we open for public hearing, you can provide comment at that point.
Heard. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next item. Anything else? Oh,
Public.
public. Public. Yes, David.
Name is David Scopin, and one thing I wanted to kind of put out there so it's part of the public record is that I was wishing to be an interested party. I believe that's the terminology for the Pinewood Manor development. The other comment I have to make is I sent around, and hopefully everyone received it, a 18-minute TED Talk. The reason I'm putting that out there for everyone to view, and I'd be, yes, okay. It brings me to a point, which is that when I sit in the back sometimes, I can not only hear very little, but even looking at some of the screens doesn't help. So yeah, I will. But the amount of sound coming out of the back of the room there is quite astounding. I heard that. So, anyway, long story short, I would certainly entertain any questions on the information I sent or comments.
Okay.
And I don't know whether I have to be on the agenda to.
Generally, if we're going to be doing a back and forth, it should be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do I go about that?
Talk to Catherine or Kent or Sharon.
Okay. Very good. And the next meeting, what would be a possibility? I'm assuming.
It's up to them to decide.
I
We'll
see.
let you know what.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. I mean, I think that hopefully folks will have the opportunity to view that 18-minute TED Talk. I think it's in the best interest of the town and the inhabitants to be aware of things in the world and.
Threw me off too.
I'm sorry. Oh,
You're the tip.
I'm a reverb. Well, okay. Well, with that, I'll leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dusty, if I could just say that there are some people with just, everyone signed out with just first name, but when they,
Say it out loud.
Dave, could you give your name, please? Online, it says Dave Guest.
And just for folks who are questioning, the folks online, is we're asking for your name so it can be part of the record.
And also, if you speak during a certain application, you become an interested party, so that helps.
Watching me chew gum.
Okay, so at this point, Sharon,
Yep,
have we gotten any comments or anything, feedback from anybody?
nothing that I see,
So how many, I can't, so we have,
We have one that just says, Brooks family, I've got her name, and oops, the Dave guest looks like they dropped off.
okay. So before we get going, I'd like to swear everybody here in and everybody online, if you can please echo when I ask.
Can I just make
Oh,
a
I'm sorry, Al,
public
yes,
to be heard.
yes,
It'll
I'm
be
sorry.
outside of my
Okay,
application. I just wanted to remind everyone that 3 years ago, I wrote a letter requesting some discussions on zone change possibilities up at Saxon. And I want to give you an example of what happened this week. I had a tenant that wanted 20 to 30,000 square feet. And I knew it was not like a easily approved without really weaving through the weeds, you know? So I called Sharon and she said clearly it's not going to be approved. And I want to explain, you know, what it is it's a
Allowed might be a better word.
okay, allowed. It's an electric car sales, service, storage facility. They want to be able to sell, you know, the electric cars, and it's not an approved use for that zone. And I don't know that the town even has a car sales district that they allow any car sales in. Do you guys know if there is?
There is not, other than a grandfathered one at Paya's Auto on Colchester Road. And some automotive, auto shops have limited approval to sell a few cars,
like Nate's on.
like Snake's Auto.
Yeah. So I guess I want to bring it to your attention that I'd hate to see the town miss out on opportunities for the ability to, you know, bring new businesses into the town. I think that's what the town is wanting to do. I think that the town wants developers to, you know, to be able to do these kinds of things. And it just begs the question on that request that I had on, you know, getting together with whoever to maybe at least get an answer one way or the other, yes or no, or put a group together to talk about, you know, being a little more flexible with the zoning uses up there. That's all. I wanted to bring that to your attention. Brian doesn't want me to dwell on it too much because
Well,
we're on the next agenda and I don't want to
quite frankly, I think this is probably going to be a discussion that would be better had again. I know you've had it with us, but we are shifting
I know.
function and roles, so I think it might be a good leading discussion, RPDI discussions, when we get into the new planning commission configuration,
Sure.
when there can be maybe greater focus put to it.
Well, one little caveat, you know, the industrial buildings that I've got in this town right now are bringing in almost $1 million in revenues to the tax base. And I strongly suggest that it's much easier to bring it from the commercial development than the residential people. You know, if we can offset some of the taxes with commercial buildings, it sure is easier on the people that want to live in town with a slower tax bill increase, you know what I mean? So think about that. And you got a developer that's willing to do some development here. So thank you for your time.
Anyone else at this point? Okay. Seeing none in online or in the room, I would like anyone who's going to offer any testimony for the rest of the evening to please stand and raise your right hand. And if you're at home, please just affirm that you agree and provide. Do you want to swear that any testimony you present this evening will be truthful to the best of your ability? That's anybody who's going to speak, online or in the room. Thank you.
Yep.
And I'd like to hear some echoing from the folks online. Come off mute and just say you agree, please. Otherwise, I won't be entertaining comments. So I need you to come up.
I agree.
Thank you.
Agree. Brooks family.
Four?
I
Okay.
think I saw 4 of them.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, the first item on the agenda is Sharon, you wanna take this, but it looks like it's an authorization for administrative approval on a sign.
So you all received in your packet a sign request for the HDI property located in the town center. And for the newbies at the table, HDI was approved with specific colors, and the green backing that you see was also regulated that way. They are proposing something new as proposed in your sign, and kind of piggybacking off a recent conversation we had here at this table, a request to come forward specific before the planning commission, one at a time. And so I was hoping the tenant was going to be here, but the sign can speak for itself. If you would entertain this sign, you can either make a motion that I sign it, or you can make a motion that the chair signs it, or you can continue it if you want to have further discussion with.
So if what I'm hearing simply is that you're requesting that we grant you the latitude to approve or disapprove a sign.
This sign,
That sign.
this specific sign. Per your instructions from the last meeting was to bring the signs before you. And if Rick Bove wanted to just make a universal switch, then he would have to come in with an application to switch, add colors to the template or add variety.
Okay. So commissioners, what are your thoughts? I mean, you've seen the sign, you know the area, I'm hoping. And I mean, it's either comes in as an application for us to review, or we delegate the authority to approve to Sharon. Georgia?
I like this sign. I don't have particularly strong feelings about signs, but I like this one. Personally, I don't think it's necessary for us to approve, but I.
So do you would
yes.
agree to delegate?
Yes.
Delegate.
Absolutely delegate.
Delegate.
Trevor?
Well, can I just ask a question? Right now, there's an approved palette. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So now, but this sign doesn't have any colors from the approved palette in it.
They're very close,
Okay.
but it's a different kind of sign. The other signs are almost encased in wood signage.
Background.
Yeah. So it's definitely a breakaway. With Eurowest is not bound by the town center. However, an agreement was made years ago that I can approve all signage in the town center with the color palette only.
Yeah, I would be okay if Sharon made the decision.
So is anyone willing to offer a motion to that effect? Georgia?
So the motion is that we are,
We
we are-
delegate the approval of the signage for Pinwheel to the zoning administrator.
for Pinwheel or for going
Pinwheel.
further, for Pinwheel?
Pinwheel.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we delegate the decision to choose the signage for Pinwheel to Sharon Kelly, zoning administrator.
Second it.
Moved by Georgia, seconded by Shu. Any additional discussion? Sharon, is the verbiage acceptable? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. We have a letter in our reading plan, or in our packet, about service reduction. So, notice that I would have put that, shuffled that down towards the bottom if I thought about it. But let's have a discussion about
Yeah,
that.
so I kind of put it up top, so in case we had some people leave us,
'Kay.
they'd hear this first. I want to get the word out.
So somebody want to give us a heads up, Josh, about what's going
Sure.
on?
This is a a letter in light of the proposed reduction, or rather discontinuance entirely by fiscal 2026 of the number 10 bus. That's the Essex, Williston, Walmart loop. And I wrote this because if you look at our town plan, if you look at the ETC Next, and the idea of the ETC Next as a growth center, there's transit is sort of assumed. And so I thought it makes sense just to, from this particular perspective, to raise the point that a lot of our plans of regional residential and commercial growth do sort of assume a functioning transit system, especially if we're talking affordable housing. It makes a lot of sense in terms of density, in terms of keeping cars off the road, again, for there to be this number 10 bus.
So Catherine, would you see this just for us as the planning commission as a whole, sending this to Green Mountain Transit?
That was what I was envisioning.
So I would envision that everybody signs it, everybody who's comfortable signing this and forwarding it on.
Okay.
Can you take, if we do
Yep.
that and?
Yep, I'll just send it out electronically for
Yep.
signature.
Do you need a motion on that?
Sure.
I move that we send the letter as composed by Vice Chair Knox and have it approve it and forward it from the commission to Green Mountain Transit.
I'll second that.
Does that need to be any more unclear? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Trevor, I'm a yay?
Yay!
Okay.
A side note, Green Mountain Transit is holding a public meeting here at the town offices on October 4th from 4 to 6 p.m. To hear from, there'll be a presentation, but then hear from the community about their thoughts on the bus line elimination. So.
Would it be advantageous to ask Commissioner Knox to present his letter to them in public forum?
Well, we could.
Certainly
Entertain
could.
that idea.
I will entertain that idea.
Yeah.
So next Friday,
Next Friday.
from when to when?
4 to 6.
Okay.
I'm happy to deliver it if you are unable to. I'll be here. So.
I'll take it up with my children.
Okay.
We usually do things in committee at home.
Gotcha.
Dustin?
Yes, sir.
I just say the Active 50 reform stuff that just came out a few months ago. The Active 50 reform regulations that went through a few months ago in Essex, because there aren't certain designations, what triggers non-jurisdictional Active 50 projects are mapped urban areas, but also within a quarter mile of a public transit route. So that includes 15, part of 289, 117. It includes a lot of the, major arterials in town. So if the public transit route goes away, I don't know if those exemptions go away too.
They do.
So, they do. So.
Do we need to do any more? Thank you. Any more follow-up on that at this point? Okay. So, the next item on our agenda this evening is a preliminary plan public hearing for Allenbrook Development. This is a preliminary review of a 6-lot subdivision within the Saxon Hill Industrial Park. Kent, do you want to
Sure.
give us some info
Yeah,
on
so I'm going to run through how my staff report's formatted here. There's basically two different components to this application. There's the items within their property where they're proposing a 6-lot subdivision and a new public road. And then there are items outside of their property where they're proposing to continue the public road down to River Road, and they're proposing to do a boundary line adjustment between a couple other properties. That second piece will be addressed later with the boundary line adjustment. So there's still some work that the applicant needs to do with that. So this particular staff report covers the 6-lot subdivision area and the entirety of the new road going down to connect to River Road. So the other thing I'd walk you through with this is there's a number of items that Public Works noted that need to be revised before it's at a point where it can be approved, but we can use this time at the meeting to resolve, or not resolve, but discuss a couple outstanding issues so that when the applicant is revising their plans for the public works specifications, they can also have a heads up on the direction that you're leaning with a couple of the other issues to try to avoid as many extra meetings as we need to have. So the other main outstanding issues, as I see them, which are mentioned back in the recommendations section, to have the Planning Commission weigh in on how you would like the new road terminated. One option could be terminating it at the end of whatever the last driveway is served by their project. Another option would be continuing the road the rest of the way to connect to the northern section of Thompson Drive, so that there's a complete connection through there. Or perhaps there could be something in between. If the extension of the road all the way up isn't done now as part of this project, it would be nice to know what triggers that in the future so that there's some clarity on when that connection would be made through there. So that's one of the items. If we can try to work through a bit, that would be helpful, I think, and be productive. The other item is looking at either a sidewalk or a shared use path along the new road and what would be the preferred approach. To me and Parks and Rec and Public Works, we're all feeling like having a shared use path along there that allows bicycles on it would be the preferred approach, as opposed to having, because of the long distances, it seems more likely actually that people are going to bike there than walk. So that seems like a better long-term solution, and that would serve both people who are working there and visiting those businesses, but also people who are just trying to continue through that area to other destinations beyond. And then the other thing I would mention that I didn't add in here, but I was thinking about in the last hour or so, is along the new road about having street trees and having a landscaping plan that talks about where there would be street trees, and in the other, in the part of their property, there's the 50-foot buffer, landscape buffer area. To what degree would you like to see the landscape buffer continued versus street trees, or if there's some indication of your preference now for street trees, then that could be addressed when the applicant does their changes, right? Because
maybe we can use use the term streetscape.
Streetscape, however you'd like the streetscape.
That'll be all-encompassing sort of discussion.
That's right. So if those items could be addressed tonight, then that would give the applicant a good direction going forward for when they revise their plans.
So, Kent, just a quick question. Is the public work specs, or the public work discussion points, you outlined them very, very clearly. Do you see any value tonight in debating them? Because it seemed like Public Works was pretty adamant.
I think they were pretty clear on it. The one thing maybe that they didn't highlight that much is the importance of continuing the road through, and that seems like the fire department would like the access continued through, and Public Works is interested in having the road continued through, hopefully as part of this project. The other thing that the plan presents is both the existing Thompson Drive section to the north and this proposed area to the south both exceed Public Works specifications for a dead-end road. So they would be requesting some kind of waiver to be able to have such a long, the limit is 900 feet and they're proposing about 5,000 feet for a dead-end road. Just trying to think about the development, how it's shown is without having that road connection, any of the business traffic in the southern area that eventually wants to go northern when they leave, they're all going to be going up Sand Hill then, instead of just going through the development, and any of the businesses in the northern area that want to go southward, instead of leaving southward through their own development, they would also be going down Sand Hill. So by providing this connection, it would help alleviate the traffic over on Sand Hill.
Okay. Questions for Kent at this point? Anyone? Okay, let's turn over to you guys.
Okay, so we were here for sketch, must have been 4 or 5 months ago. We had a good discussion, we got moved forward. I'll give an overview, as there's 2 new commissioners here that weren't part of that sketch plan. So this is part of the Saxon Hill Industrial Park. This is phase 2. Phase 1 is the new section of Thompson Drive and the associated Red Pine Circle. It's located pretty far to the north from here, but it is all the same parcel. That was built out as part of a settlement agreement with the developer, Allen Brook, in the town, where about 200 acres was preserved for future industrial development, and the remainder of the lands on Saxon Hill was then donated to the town, which contained a lot of the bike trails, and the Planning Commission was integral in creating that long, sustainable relationship moving forward. So the trails, for the large part, have been conserved, but there are still some trails that are within the industrial zone property. And as the Saxon Hill Industrial Park phases through, industrial uses will be proposed in those areas, but primarily the trails are being kept the same. So phase 2 is now on the southern end of the property, so rather than accessing from the north and down Martin Drive, by extending Thompson Drive, and what we felt was contributing to a traffic concern around town. The developer, at significant expense, has now proposed to start phase 2 rather than coming down from Thompson. They're going up from 117. So we have rights to construct a public roadway through the adjacent southern landowner's property up from 117, approximately 4,000 feet of public road, and that new roadway would serve a 5-lot commercial development. The lots range from roughly 2 acres to 19 acres, but all the traffic generated from these uses would be put down to 117 rather than onto Allen Martin Drive as the conditions exist today. The project is being served by municipal utilities. Sewer is actually being run all the way from gravity all the way from the Sand Hill Road 116 intersection, roughly 4,600 feet, to serve this development. Another 4,000 feet of water main is actually being extended down from Thompson Drive rather than coming up from Sand Hill Road. We're proposing a 5-foot bituminous path along the curb section of the roadway, and once you get up on top, the roadway actually is roadside swale, similar to what you'll see on Thompson Drive and whatever else is in Sand Hill. So that's an overview. Would you like me to go through the staff report, or do you want to just focus on the items Kent brought up?
I think probably our time would be better spent on, because we're not gonna debate or decide on public works discussion points. So
yep.
Let's bring focus to the road, the path, and the streetscape that you brought up, because those seem to be.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah,
we can have some.
And I didn't expect a public works debate. I know that's how things work. The only thing I would mention is that they talk about their comments affecting the validity or the ability for the project to go forward, like the design constraints may not, or may affect the project and its validity to move forward. I think that's a substantial exaggeration. We wouldn't be here in front of you today. A lot of the comments are based on invert elevations of stormwater and sewer structures. We're going up Sand Hill Road. We can basically set those inverts at whatever invert we need them to be. We're gaining 200 feet in elevation plus. So we're only here tonight because we feel that those comments can be adequately addressed without changing the plan substantially. We have responded to those comments. We didn't expect any review prior to tonight, but I'm hopeful DPW and town staff will agree that the plans haven't changed substantially as part of
So let's talk about, well, you talked about the path.
Yeah.
Let's hit that for a little bit. What do you?
Okay. So when we were here at Sketch, there was a conversation amongst the commissioners. Shoe smiling. There was some folks who thought the 5-foot bituminous path would be an acceptable path forward. There's another idea that maybe an 8-foot rec path made sense. I will say, from Sketch to now, the path was on the western side of the road. It has now been shifted to the eastern side of the road at a request of the the request of the two residences going up halfway up the access road. Requested it to be on the other side, but also when you get on Thompson Drive, I forgot that it actually crosses at the Red Pine intersection, so it's on that side of the road as you get up to Thompson Drive as well. Many of you have been on the industrial park. My office has done most of the work out there. Every Corporate Drive, Red Pine Circle, Thompson Drive, Allen Martin are all 5-foot wide bituminous paths everywhere. So unless there's a substantial plan to be upgrading all of those to 8-foot wide rec paths, we felt a 5-foot path would be more than adequate. Now, we have learned as time goes on that the town doesn't like when they meander through trees. That's not what's proposed here. That creates a maintenance issue, as you can imagine. So we're showing a 5-foot green belt, more consistent to Red Pine Circle and Thompson Drive, the newer sections rather than the older sections of Corporate and Thompson where they do that kind of meandering. Fun to walk on, but tough to maintain. So in our experience, the bikers in this area, which there are many, overflow the parking lot that's out there. I'm not saying some people don't bike there, but from our experience, the vast majority of people drive there. Al built a parking lot for the town 4 or 5 years ago at the end of Thompson Drive to relieve the parking issue on Saxon Hill Road, and it's overflowing where the gravel set is now way past it. So we're comfortable with the 5-foot drive, or 5-foot walk path, but we'd like to hear your thoughts.
Commissioners. Not everybody at once. Slow down. Take your turns.
I mean, if they're already 5 foot there, it would look really funky to me aesthetically if we now say this section's going to be 8 feet. I'm just spitballing that. Consistency may be a nicer, may look aesthetically nicer than having one chunk look one way and one chunk look another. That would be my thought.
I think 5 foot is probably fine. I walked along those paths. There's not a ton. I mean, maybe if you have a connection from 117, maybe, people going up there, but I think 5 foot would probably be sufficient. I'm thinking about maintenance too. Does the town plow, does the town plow any of those
They do
paths?
not.
They don't? Yeah, I didn't think so. So I guess that wouldn't really matter what size the little plow things are. But I think 5
we
foot
might
is
in the
quite
future.
fine.
I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I think it's not out of the question.
I'm fine with 5 feet. Everett and I have biked through there, and 5 feet's more than enough for us.
I'm fine with 5 feet.
Do we ever envision that being more of a transportation path? I think that's the question we frequently have when we talk about between 5, 8, or 10. Is the path a recreation path, or is the path a transportation path? We've had those conversations in the past with folks who use some of these multimodal pathways as transportation hubs or transportation tools, and they don't want the meandering. They want to get from point A to point B with as few pedals as possible. I'm not arguing against a 5-foot path. I'm just, when we start talking about it, it's hard to make it an 8-foot path down the road if it starts becoming a transportation, more direction. But yeah.
I mean, I guess the differentiation is, do you want it something that's suitable for bicycle use, or is this pedestrian? So the public works specifications have a pedestrian facility would be a 5-foot wide sidewalk, and 5 feet is adequate for pedestrians because 2 wheelchairs can pass each other at the same time. That's just enough space. If you're going to have bicyclists use it, then the specifications have 8 to 10 feet. It doesn't differentiate how you would choose 8 to 10 feet. VTrans has some more detailed information. They allow 8 as an absolute minimum, but they would recommend 10 feet with 12 feet where you would expect to have higher volumes. And when they would allow 8 feet is if you had some kind of constraint, like you had rocks on each side or buildings on each side, or that would be the minimum that they would feel like would be safe for a bicyclist. Because on a 5-foot facility, if a bicyclist basically needs 4 or 5 feet to operate, somebody else needs to move. Either the bicyclist needs to go off the path, or the walker has to go off the path, or the other bicyclist has to go off. Having a wider facility allows 2 people to pass without having to go off the path into the dirt or the grass. So having a 5-foot facility, I think, would be fine if your intention is just to have pedestrians use it and then bicyclists would use the street.
Or incidentally.
But then you might
use
as well just make it.
randomly. So I
What's
guess
that?
that's the question, is for the folks who use the existing paths along Allen Martin, is it primarily pedestrian or is it pedestrian and bike?
It's usually walkers. It's
Okay.
usually pedestrians. There's bikers on it, but not that often.
Sharon?
A couple of things. Many moons ago, we started calling it a multi-use path,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mixed-use multimodal path.
right. And
Mumps.
I'm speaking for the city of Burlington. Maybe it's statewide, but bikers are having a lot more freedom, for lack of a better word, and they're making streets very bike centric. So they're
Let's
in the
not
road.
use Burlington as an example, because sadly Burlington is making, bike-centric
I think
and
it's a s-
vehicle
I think
non-centric.
Oh, I know, but I think it's a state rule that, and you can, so bikers can ride side by side, so, in the road. So, and that's everywhere. Yes.
That is
So-
true.
So, I'm in favor of, it's a recreation area. I like the idea that it's smaller.
Then it
Like-
sounds like there's a support from the commission for 5 feet.
I thought she was going the other way.
Me
I mean,
too.
I think that I could
You're
see this
suggesting
connecting
just pedestrian.
through all the way, and then you could go up North Williston Road to Catamount on your bike. I mean, it could potentially be a good connection, to other biking locations. So I think having the wider.
How much of an impact would it be to bump it to 8?
About $4,000 per 100 feet.
Do you have is the space there?
The biggest issue is that the road has a 14-foot cut as you go up that hillside to maintain an 8% grade. So if I kick the path out and they're 3 feet and then I have another shoulder and then I start grading up,
It'd be tough on
it's
that
going to be
area.
even more than that. The other thing I would state is that if we're assuming that if it's 5 foot, no bikers are going to use it. The town's standard for a road are 30-foot wide. That's the widest road standard that I'm aware of in Chittenden County. Most roads are 24 to 27 now. 30 feet is an exceptionally wide road. If you think about a lane on a highway, they're 11 feet.
Is this road? I'm just thinking, are there gonna be a lot of trucks on this road? I don't like to ride bikes on roads with lots of I mean, if you're gonna have all the.
I think
traffic.
they'd use a 5-foot path or an 8-foot path.
Yeah.
But if we just set that aside, I'm just merely stating
Yeah.
that. a fog line
So we haven't gotten to public hearing yet, open public hearing either. So this is things for us to chew on right now. And it sounds.
I feel like
without-
Trevor might have. something to
Trevor,
say.
thoughts? Sorry, thank you.
I think, I think a wider path would be good, considering probably people are gonna use bicycles more in the future.
Also be quite a hot climb up that hill.
Well, it's yeah. That's just, I think it's something we're not done chewing that on that yet.
Just for my
Yeah.
2 cents, real bikers are always on the street with the cars. The real bikers that are moving fast, they don't want to be on those bike paths, whether it's 5 or 8 feet wide. And most of the bikers at Saxon Hill, they come in with grills and coolers. It's very difficult to navigate that on the back, so they drive in, most of them. And they're in the woods. 99% of them are in the woods. I don't see too many bikers on the walkways.
I think I remember from the first time this came through, we were talking about potentially, as Catherine mentioned, connectivity. You know, this being a connectivity link as well, not just an access into Saxon Hill, but a potential method to traverse that area and go from point Route 15 to point 117 transportation. So that's really what I was trying to bring into the conversation a little bit, is that connectivity potential.
Does the town plan, do you know, have a proposed pedestrian facility on Sand Hill Road? I imagine it probably does.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
We do have a few easements, but we don't have connectivity for a path along Sand Hill Road all the way from top to bottom.
Oh, no, I know there's not one now. I'm saying is anything on the town plan that may say at some point in the future it may. You know, that's where the residents are located.
Well, I know, and like I said, we have over the years, we have secured a few easements that exist along Sand Hill Road. When various developments have come in.
It's peaceful.
But it's not.
And at the top there.
And there's one partway, just the first level, when we put the 3 or 4 houses in on the left when you're going down.
Yep.
There's a section there that was secured.
Yep.
But the question at that time, even at that time, was which side of the road and so forth. So there's not a connected path all the way down at this stage. Let's park that for now, because it sounds like there's some, you know, we can circle back to that. Let's talk about the road. You know, the termination or the continuance or the termination point that as Kent brought up.
Could Ken explain that to me? Because I'm kind of confused.
Let me ask a question then, and I'll turn it to we won't put Ken on the hot seat right now. Sure. There's been a long-term goal for that area to have that road be connected from top to bottom. So we're having a proposal in front of us for development on the downside. Why aren't we connecting? Why aren't we establishing that connection? And if not now, as I think Kent said this, if not now, when? What's the trigger in your mind to establish that full connectivity, which is, I believe, a long-term goal and has been for many years.
No, it is a long-term goal. However, I mean, you guys must know what it costs to build a road these days, right? It's very, very expensive. And I can't afford to build 2 miles of road for an industrial park that isn't renting like overnight. It takes time for that to happen. So we're doing it in phases, and we're attempting to get the second phase built right now. But I mean, it's dollars and cents. And if the town wants to come in and help build this road, I'd be more than happy to work with them on it. But I mean, I'm not an endless.
Could we pull up my sheet 2 and go up to the location plan, or if you have any of the settlement agreement plans, that'd be fine too. But I want to give a little context of why it's being phased the way it is. So the shorter path and the easier, cheaper road for how to build is actually down from Thompson Drive and terminating at the southern line and not going down to 117.
Yep.
That's the easier path. It's flat. We're not dealing with 14-foot cuts. I'm not running gravity sewer through a V-Trans right away. I'm not dealing with V-Trans for a highway access permit. It's by far the easiest, cheapest route to go. We purposefully came up from 117 because we know there's a concern amongst the town about traffic on Allen Mountain Drive. So we feel we're going above and beyond just that of the starting gate. But if you look up at my location plan, what's in the light gray is what land was dedicated to the town. What's in the darker gray is the land that was conserved by was maintained by Allen Brook Development. Yeah, it would be great, Ken, if you can zoom in on that.
Oops.
Whoever's driving.
There we go. No, it's me. I don't know what happened here.
But
It's kind of slow here as I'm.
yeah, so this is phase 2. Phase 3 would be connecting Thompson and we'll have to have a new name for Chemo Drive at the time when that occurs. But the two lobes going off to the west, if you see them, you can see the connecting road or the right of way for the connecting road going north-south. The darkest gray in the southeast corner on my location plan there is where this proposal's done. But the sand pit is the northern one. That was part of the settlement agreement. Al's on the first few cells in that sand pit. But the southern area there is, well, Al has currently a small solar array. You can see it in the ortho photo just on the left corner of where that location plan is. That land cannot be developed per the settlement agreement until the sand pit is closed. So at this stage, if Al was to continue to build that road, we'd be gaining 0 building lots out of it. The economics behind it make sense once that land can be developable, or if land could be acquired on either side of that road going up to Thompson Drive. Obviously not something that's going to be settled tonight, but that's why, it's not that we build more road, we gain more lots. We're building roughly a $4 million road to gain, 5 building lots. If it's a $6 million, $7 million road, the numbers just don't work out and could potentially, be the end of the project. So, the phasing is a huge component to the timing in the future, and that will depend on,
A lot of things. I mean, we've been in discussions with the town to do some type of a land swap along that, we'll call it Phase 3 road, so that it allows us to take lands that the bikers have already made trails on, that we can develop on, and swap it for land that's down alongside the road, where we've had some discussions. It's not gone too far lately, but we've had discussions to do that in order to continue building that next road.
And that's stuff that wouldn't be under the planning commission's purview. We understand that. It's just the pure economics of the situation. Building twice as much road just doesn't make sense at this juncture. Now, stuff like that, if the select board was agreeable to land swaps and what have you, would that accelerate that end? Maybe if the condition was done that, the sand pit didn't have to be closed and that Phase 3 area could be open for development, those sorts of things would accelerate that road being constructed. Mm-hmm. But market conditions and participation from the town, I think, are the biggest factors on how quickly that will happen.
Commissioners, thoughts? So, how do we address the length of the 2 dead-end roads?
Yeah.
As Kent brought up.
Yeah, so Thompson now is roughly equal to, if you add Red Pine with it, it's roughly equal. Now, I understand we built an emergency access road 4 or 5 years ago around and down Saxon Hill Road. But Thompson Drive was under that waiver for a very long time. Corporate Drive is a very long dead-end cul-de-sac with no plans on building further. The town has a history of granting waivers, especially in the case where future and planned development is, highly likely in the future. In this instance, I see this as a master plan. The master plan is the settlement agreement that the town worked out years and years and years ago. I don't think the expectation ever was that all that road would be built in one whack.
Depends who you spoke with.
Okay.
If you spoke to the previous town engineer, it was.
Okay.
If you spoke to, different times on the planning commission, it was. So I think there's been other instances where the road is like a future thing. Right now, look at the community discussion points. The increased truck traffic on Allen Martin, the increase, which is it's designed for, but that increased truck traffic now blames off, either goes through Route 15 or goes down Sand Hill Road through the residential areas, right? Mm-hmm. So number one, from a perspective, connecting that road is a positive, if nothing else from a community perspective, but a positive for the Thompson Drive Thompson Drive residents, your businesses that come in. So that's a positive for them. It's a positive for the folks that you might be coming in off from Sand Hill Road in this development, this phase. You only have one access point, and you've got a pretty good slope that you're planning on for this road.
8%, I don't believe that's a steep slope.
Okay.
ADA specs are 5%. The town allows up to 12 on minor roads.
So I'm just thinking trucks and snow and ice and so forth. And,
Yeah, it's not as steep as Sand Hill. It will be substantially less steep than Sand Hill.
which, there's positives all the way around. So that's why I personally I would like to see I would like to see a more definitive target and not just an economic future maybe. More definitive.
What do you mean by more definitive on?
I'm going to build it, and it's within 5 years of if this project is approved, within 5 years that road will be built.
Well, I think there's so many parameters here. I mean, I've been asking for 3 years for a zone change. A zone change would have a very good impact for a guy to go build a road, knowing that he could lease to a tenant that came along, but then I have to turn him away because it's not zoned for it. And I don't know how long it's been since the industrial zone district has been written or changed. But I can tell you it hasn't been changed in the last 3 years for either the RPD or the industrial zone. And that tells me that we need to work together, because if I can bring a tenant to that industrial park, that means I can afford to build a road a little further. I can't build roads just to satisfy town needs. I'm not that guy. I mean, obviously, there has to be a return in it for a developer, or you wouldn't have developers.
And there has to be I don't want to get,
No, I understand. There has to be a return in it for the town, but there is a return in it for the town.
There also has to be the addressment of the safety concerns and everything else. And
Absolutely.
This is the longer-term target.
Absolutely. So if you think it's going to be unsafe to build this section, I certainly want an answer. I don't want to have to wait 3 years to get an answer on whether it's gonna or not gonna happen. I would rather hear no, and then I can't do it if I can't get a return on it. I would rather hear no, that we're not gonna allow the road because it's too long. And then I don't know what we do from there, because I can't afford to build a 2-mile road and not be able to put buildings on it or rent it up, or sell it.
I don't want this to be a me discussion only, so please jump in as you get to it. But I'm going to keep going on this, because I've been on the wrong side of this of developments where we asked for something and it didn't get there, because we're going to develop it in the future. You give us this now, and we'll do it when we retrieve a target in the future, and that target never hits, so we never get that piece of road that's needed. So with that in mind, the options might be on your plate to say, how can we do something? Maybe it's not a full built-in road right now. We've had the fire department wants access down through there.
They could access that tomorrow.
Well,
There are trails through there that were old log roads. We drive trucks down there. I mean, the solar farm was built, and we accessed it through those trails.
So the fire department did submit comments, and nowhere do they say that it's unsafe. What they talk about is erecting a gate at the end of Thompson, which one exists already,
Which we do.
and at the end of this road, and making the haul roads in between the two accessible from, I think they say ATV. They give specific.
And we could do that.
But he's not. They're not asking for it to be connected.
But it is already connected.
I get that. I've been out there. I understand that.
Okay.
Okay. But it's not connected in the middle of the winter. It's not connected at any point in time. It's not a traversable. It's not traversable at any point. And maybe that's not an appropriate ask today.
Mm-hmm.
But the next question really is when and how. How can we phase it? How can we stage it? How can you stage it so that it starts becoming accessible? It starts becoming recognized as a vehicle road, not just a trail that bikes go on and trucks can go on. How do we start getting there? This is some of the onus is going to be on your side.
Sure.
Not just we can't do it because it's too expensive.
We can put a letter together for that, and in a time frame.
And how do we?
But we have to have cooperation. I can't wait 3 years for an answer. If I submit that question of that information to you, when will I get an answer? If I say I can build a road, I can build phase 2 tomorrow, we'll say, and if I get approval for these 6 lots. And then I can build phase 3 in 2 or 3 years if this happens, that happens. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
It's not just my side that's,
right, but we can't tie the uses to that. We can't tie the future uses to that. You can. We can't, because those
do you mean?
the use changes that you've requested, if that's what you're referring to,
yes.
that has to go through review, and they have been looked at.
Well, I'm
And
not
it's-
saying we're gonna do it tomorrow either. I'm saying, if I tell you I can build that road in 3 years, if I can put buildings on it and I can, have a return on my investment, the town gains huge. I mean, the town doesn't pay a nickel for a road when it's built.
So this is the sort of discussion, I think, that, again, this is gonna hit the planning commission.
Yeah.
As of January 1, we start weighing in the advantages that your new uses that you're asking for might provide, some of the trade-off and so forth. I'm trying not to I'm not committing to anything right now. All I'm committing to is telling you that I would like, hopefully the rest of the commission would as well, but it's a group discussion. I would like to see that road connected, or I would like to see a definitive plan to connect that road through, and an interim phase that allows the connectivity to be utilized, maybe only by emergency vehicles, consistently and at will, but until that road is fully built. And I know that it's drivable now. I understand that, but it's not consistently kept open, and it's not marked, and it's not delineated clearly. It's a bike trail, enhanced bike trail.
So we are running a water main
I
from
gotta shut up.
the end of Thompson down to phase 2.
Maybe.
Right? So right now the haul roads don't necessarily follow the right of way that's planned, or that they don't. The right of ways don't follow, or the haul roads don't follow the right of way. That's why the town granted easements to Allen Brook to use them, because they're now on town property. So as we are running the water main down from Thompson Drive, rather than up from 117, there will be a 10, 20-foot swath of an impact associated with that water line. Public Works will want that, maintained like any other cross-country run. It's not a road, but it's the water main built within that right-of-way, and there's still access through the haul road. I think what you're looking for is something, malleable, that's going to be on the ground, that, says, yes, a road is definitively going
It's a
through here
mapped,
one day.
it's a mapped item, it's a mapped direction, it's there, it's laid
Certainly.
through, and it can be
Certainly.
seen.
And that a water main cross country like that will have a swath associated with it, cleared 20 feet on either side. I mean, an excavator at least, stone, dump truck, all the stuff that goes into putting it in. There will be that corridor that could be easily accessible by pedestrians, whether or not, I think graveling it, serves a purpose if there's already a utility connector between the north and the south section. But that will be
I think it
That
would
will-
be, I
that-
think it would be easier to just spruce up one of the haul roads that's in there right now. It's plenty wide enough for any emergency access vehicle, whether it's a fire truck or a police car, and as long as it's maintained. And then we just have to determine who's gonna maintain that.
if we put gravel down, when it gets built to be a public road, Public Works is going to have us pull it out. We're not going to put down a 30-inch
See,
section.
but this is the level of detail I don't necessarily think that I'm looking for today.
Right. I'm
But
explaining why gravel within a future right of way is.
And you've already, you're thinking this, which is what I was looking for. So I'm gonna turn to staff for a minute. And is anything making you guys uncomfortable right now? Because I've been running on too much tonight.
The thing I'm just trying to think through is the Public Works specifications say 900 feet is the longest for a dead-end road, and if somebody's looking to get a waiver from the requirements, what level of thing are they providing that offsets what they're not providing, so that there's if our standards are kind of already assumed to be the minimum expectation for safety or for the community or for whatever we have, and somebody's asking to go below the minimum, how do we become whole with that whole proposal that we have? So that's why I'm just trying to think through.
Let me ask the question a different way. If a connectivity mechanism is established so that we have on the map, we have a continuity from point A to point B, maybe partially, and maybe it's point A to D, and between B and C is not a fully spec'd out public works road. Will that satisfy, do you think that might be interpreted as a non-dead end situation? This is the creativity I was trying to instill into this, so we can, because I think, continue to make non-conforming roads doesn't help us, because we're not having an endpoint in this. We're not having a definitive endpoint of that connectivity.
It also, this isn't corporate drive. We're not proposing a cul-de-sac here. Which I think it makes it substantially different, which is why Thompson Drive was the way it is for 20 plus years.
Sharon?
I have driven the town car from 117 straight through. It's very doable. Out of all the conversations, I like Al's suggestion of beefing up one of the haul roads for fire and police. But I have no qualms about being able to get through there for emergency purposes.
So can we, and I'm not trying to engineer this, but can we use that connectivity that is already in existence and bring it up to some level of acceptability so there aren't two dead end roads? That's sort of the discussion point that I'm trying to go towards, so that we have something more definitive that in the next 5 to 10 years is actually going to be built fully through, but it's there now. Everybody sees it.
So I'd like to ask the question, what would that road be used for? Would it be used just for fire and safety stuff, or would it be used for car traffic to go through? Is the town looking for additional cars to go through that on a temporary basis?
I would think not, because it
I would think not
spec.
either. And then think of it this way. The total length of that is about 8,000 or 9,000 feet, correct? From 117 to the end of Thompson. If phase 2 gets approved at some point in the near future, that limits that 8,000 or 9,000 back down to 4,000 of, we'll call it class 4 road rather, and you'll have the two started. And then it's just maybe a matter of time before that third one. I mean, 2 out of 3 is not bad sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I just can't afford to build the whole thing. And I'm struggling with this 4,400 foot piece right now. I mean, we're talking $4 million to put a road in, and I'm going to get 6 lots out of it. Who does that?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Tell you what, let me kick to the rest of the commission, because I've been monopolizing conversation, which I usually try not to, but I got a little carried away tonight. So I apologize to everybody for speaking so much. Let's go around the room, and I'll be silent for a little bit. I'm going to start with Trevor, because I keep forgetting him tonight. Trevor.
Yes, well, I mean, I know that building roads is real expensive. And I guess my question would be that say you do end up with a through road one day, well, that's going to have implications as well that we haven't really considered. And I don't know if you want to focus on seeing that that's a through road at this point. I mean,
I'm with you, Trevor.
I mean, I'm sympathetic. You know, I know how much it costs to build highways. So, yeah, I mean, it's a hard problem.
Chicken or the egg?
Well, I could say this, okay? Obviously, we want to eliminate as much truck traffic off of Sand Hill Road, correct? This is a step towards that. We need to get support from the neighbors and have them believe in it a little bit too. It's also a situation where when we put enough tenants up in the park, they're going to want to go both ways, because there's going to be a lot of trucks that are going to want to go down 117 to get on the interstate and go south. There's going to be a lot of trucks that are on the phase 2 side that want to go up towards Route 15 and head out towards Underhill and Jericho. So there's pressure coming from everywhere. But I think really the town and myself and Brian need to get together and come up with a plan that works for everyone. You know, I mean, I
think that sounds wonderful.
Okay.
and I'm thinking that, you know, Public Works staff, Public Works is staff, but staff and you, and let's keep going. Sorry, I said I was gonna shut up, and that didn't last very long.
What I would say about phase 3 conversations would be separate and aside from what we're doing currently.
Yeah, let's
Absolutely.
let the rest of the guys chime in.
Okay.
'Cause I don't want Brian to keep monopolizing the conversation like he has. Stephanie.
I look at what it can bring, even without the road being fully connected to the community, to the tax base. That's where I feel a little bit more favorable. I like the idea of having a trigger point. Like, is it if phase 2 gets approved, phase 3 only gets approved when and if this road gets fully and completely connected. There has to be that emergency pass that we've been talking about, but that's the trigger point. Like, it is in stone that if we approve X, the next phase will not get approved until the road is fully connected. And that, to me, would be somewhat reasonable.
Georgia.
I actually think that this is pretty important. Much more to me, this is a more important issue than the paths. I know the paths were kind of probably not nearly as expensive as a road, but seeing that connection, I think would be. I just know people who live in that neighborhood really, really don't like those trucks. It's very, very important to them, and I think this would go a long way, that connection, if at all possible, or a plan for some sort of connection where people know it's going to happen and can see it, I think is really important. So to me, it's a much more important issue to me than the size of the paths or things like that. I think it's really important.
Okay.
And I'd like to see it.
Ian.
I totally understand the concept of the expense it's going to be cost to build that extra section of the road. To me, I look at this and I feel like there's enough of a mitigant with the stretch that is provided for fire safety and whatnot. I think that, as you know, as other commissioners have said, if there's a target for a trigger for that last section of the road being built on that phase 3, I think that makes sense to me. Provided that the piece that's missing is adequate enough for fire safety to get through.
I was going to start with a question. So, Brian, the right of way that's running across, is that? No, that's not up there anymore. But
I can pull it up.
I was looking at the one with the ortho map on it, ortho drawing or the picture. But anyway, that dotted line, kind of where the road is drawn, also on your plan.
Yeah.
That's the right of way, correct?
That's
and
correct.
that is where you're planning to put this municipal water line through.
The water main is going to be on the eastern side of that in anticipation of the road going through in the future. That's correct.
Okay. I am totally not worried about having the road connecting right now. I feel like having the emergency access is really all you're looking for, or we should be looking for. You can put a gate in on either end, whatever you normally do. We have had instances in other applications where we're going to build the road someday and it didn't happen. This feels different to me, the way the layout is with Thompson Drive, and it's not Chemo Drive anymore, is it? It's something else, but
It'll have to change it.
It'll end up being Thompson Drive when it's connected.
I guess so.
It'll be connected.
So anyway, I don't feel very strongly that this application requires this to be, a full-on road. The other thing is, if we talk about a trigger by which you're going to have to make the connection, well, that's not in front of us right now. There's no phase 3 application or anything like that I know of. So I don't feel like we can do that. That's really all I got.
Okay. Josh.
So with respect to this specific application, I'm kind of going to follow on what Shu said. End of the day, obviously I'd love the road to be built. I think that's the end game. But for a waiver for this, I think I just need some language that it is going to be built, that town staff, Public Works, which again is a redundant thing, and the developer, the applicant, will get together and say, here is our plan for doing it. Because if we're giving a waiver for 2 dead-end roads and not getting anything back, that kind of defeats the purpose of what we usually give waivers for. But I also think that saying the entire road needs to be built as a result of this specific application sounds like it's a bit of a reach right now.
Okay?
So, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that calling them a dead-end road, if you've created some connectivity,
It's fair.
is not really right. If it was still forested and there was no water main that was run through and some kind of a gravel or dirt road that's passable as an emergency thing, then calling them dead-end roads is not really correct. So I don't feel like we have to get a waiver if you created some kind of a connectivity, even if it's not like a pass-through for public.
So, I'm happy to hear all these conversations, because you guys are all getting to the points that I was trying to aim towards. The connectivity. So let's drill on that a little bit. And you guys are included in this question. The connectivity, and I know the existing roads are there, the existing trails, and they can be driven over by trucks and so forth. Are they passable? 100% passable. 365 days a year.
I would say yes. Yes.
Okay. So to me, that would be a condition of the waiver.
Now, I could say this. We have to figure out who's going to maintain when a tree falls, because so far we've been doing that, and we'll continue to do that. But so when you said 365, it may be 364 or 3 because we don't get the tree taken out of the road.
My point being is that the fire trucks, any of Charlie's trucks, can go over that land at any point. Understanding that
Absolutely.
trees fall. So that maintenance of that. If we get a 5-foot snowfall, which we don't get those anymore, but is that emergency path going to be cleared in an appropriate time frame? I know it might not be that one day.
Yeah.
But that to me is what I'm looking for. And if we have that level of connectivity, then to Shu's point, I don't think we have a dead end road. I think we've got connectivity through. So this is really where I was trying to get to. And the trigger point, I'm not in complete agreement with you. I think we can write something in here that any future development in this area is going to trigger a full connectivity. I think that's something we can do because it's still part of the overall parcel.
We could give you we could do a plan that calls out what phase 3 is.
And I think this is where your point of coming up with the appropriate design with the rest of the staff would come into play, and we'd have the connectivity for emergency access now, and that's it's a loose term at this point, not just a 4-wheeler, but it would have delineation, and it could show on a map that it's connected for emergency access. Whether you put a gate on each end or not, again, that would be, you guys probably would want to do that.
Well, the town actually wants us to do it as well. So.
Yeah.
So Charlie submitted comments. His third one here, it says, the fire department would recommend making the utilities pathway, the haul roads, from Thompson Drive to the proposed development be maintained as a drivable roadway with access gates on each end. This pathway would be available for a 4-wheel drive pickup or a UTV vehicle in emergencies to access, I think he's, patients and wildfire fighting activities. It would not need to be plowed in the winter. However, brushed and any felled trees would need to be kept clear.
Personally, I would say it would need to be cleared in the winter. But this in my mind, it would be, you haven't heard that there's a universal support for absolute connectivity and so forth. I would propose to the commission that if we have that connectivity established and delineated, that we defer to you and Public Works and the rest of staff to work out what the format of that is, and language that covers that it is expected to be connected with phase 3 development, something to that effect. So we've acknowledged that it's there. We've acknowledged that it will be fully built. And
the condition would be to make sure that phase 3, when constructed, we don't come off 2 and take a left into the developable area. Phase 3 would be connecting the 2 drives and going into the developable area. Once the sand pit's closed, then that's allowed.
So poke on that, guys. I mean, we also got to go to public hearing in a minute or two, so we've been leaving everybody out.
Do Want to hit the streetscape at all?
Yeah, let's, we beat the road to pieces for a little bit.
Not that I have any burning desire, just thought if anyone wanted to
You can lead the
comment.
discussion on that. I've
So,
already
guys, how
spoken
about the
myself.
streetscape? What do you want? You want trees? What do you want to do with that?
Do we want to address it right now since they're not building it through?
Funny guy.
Say hilarious.
Excuse me.
But there is part of it being built, so, you
Yeah.
know, along that portion, I think is the question.
So do you want to, Kent, can you just sort of reiterate the tree streetscape concern?
So on the plans, they've not provided landscaping plans to suggest what they would have. The requirements would call for normally street trees along a new road. In the RPDI area, it's different. You would have the 50-foot landscape buffer, which I think has been adjusted in different spots so that there is consistency with it. I thought this would just be a good opportunity to give the applicant a nod in the direction of what you're hoping that the streetscape is going to look like. Or do you want street trees up to a point and then the street trees stop and then you have a 50-foot buffer? Or I don't even know if there's even any trees up there in the area that you have, but what's the landscaping concept you're...
Yeah, so there's a long history with the 50-foot buffer in front of the road. So it's the RPDI district, right? So it's a 40-60 split. 40% is allowed to be developed, 60% is not supposed to be. Well, the front 50-foot buffer that's along the roads, that's part of the zoning district. The history is that it used to, the planning commission used to not allow that buffer to be disturbed in any way. Roads get built, side slopes get shaped into it, utilities cross it, driveways cross it. They ended up, the trees were super tall, getting blown into the wind, blown down by the wind. So that's creating a number of issues, but the first, 10, 15 years, that's the way it got developed out there. More recently, the planning commission has allowed that buffer to be cut down, and new trees have been planted, which we feel creates a nicer, cleaner streetscape. But it's too bad Bruce is in the bathroom. It kills him that some of it's like that and some of it's not. So, like, if you guys remember the Leo subdivision when that was in front of you, Chair Brusso was talking about, he didn't really care what way we went, just pick a lane and make sure you stick to it.
Yeah.
So, for here, what I would suggest is that a waiver is granted for a 50-foot buffer clearing throughout phase 2 with the expectation that trees get planted, 50 feet on center. Understanding that there's utilities, stormwater features, other things, but a condition like that in the subdivision approval would guarantee that that's created for every lot that comes in for you or in front of you in the future. So my opinion on this would be don't include the street tree requirement as part of the road construction. Make sure it's done consistently as every site plan comes in following the subdivision.
And isn't it usually done?
I'm just happy.
That's the way we did phase 1.
Chair.
Yeah.
That's how we did phase 1.
What about the portion that's just the road? I know some of that's not on your property
Right.
too.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have, and I believe the town, when they do require street trees, don't allow them in the right of way because they don't want to maintain them. They want the people who own the property up to the right of way to maintain them. So we have rights to have a 60-foot right of way through the abutting parcel to the south. A solar field also exists there. High voltage KV power lines. We would like to not do street trees from our southern line down to 117 for those.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm fine.
That's totally
That
fine.
makes all the sense in the world.
So I'm good with what you just proposed, that that's can be kind of in the language when this comes back.
Yeah.
That would be fine with me.
Next.
Yeah.
Great.
So, with that, I would take a motion to open the public hearing.
We open the
I'll
public
second that.
Moved by Shu, seconded by Josh. All those in favor?
hearing.
Aye. All those, any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Public hearing is open. So, appreciate everyone for having being patient with us and getting through this to this point. But anybody who has any questions or comments, either here in the room or online, raise your hand, be recognized.
Dustin, I think we had at least one person come on before you did the oath, I believe.
I think Grant.
B. Palmer.
I think he
And
was there
Graham,
before.
too.
He was there
Oh, B.
before on
Palmer was
that.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Graham, if you want to speak, before you speak, I'll have to ask you to, acknowledge the oath. But otherwise, is there anybody in the room that wants to speak? Sir? Yep.
Probably have them come to the microphone?
Yeah, if you could, please, just come up and
It's a hot seat, right?
wow.
And can you bring that
right.
microphone over?
Oh my God, it's gonna eat me.
It's for the chair.
Richard Hosking, River Road. A couple of just general comments. One, with the way Mother Nature is treating Vermont, every July on a certain date, we get a major storm. I'm just concerned that with any development, how are we gonna handle the stormwater? Not in how we did it 10 years ago, but how are we gonna do it from now into the future? Because when you look at where this development is, any development up there, the water's flowing down toward 117. And there's no culverts under 117 that can take additional stormwater which a paved development will have. So it's just a general comment that we need to be sure we're looking at that. Because even though this development would not put stormwater down by my house, developments that have been done in Jericho have increased the flow down there, which is 24-inch culvert under 117 will not take all the water during some of these storms. So that's just one thing we need to look at. The other thing, when you started talking about the shared use path, there's no sidewalks on 117. So there'd be very few pedestrians. It's something that we need to think about. If we're going to build a shared use path, who's going to use it? And it may be that 5-foot path would be adequate for bicycles. Though I know a lot of bicyclists who refuse to go on the shared use paths because they say that they're never swept. And so there's always stones and gravel and so forth on there, which they end up tipping over. And the other thing is, for the future, when the connection is made, I'm going to be positive, there's going to have to be a traffic signal down at 117. And because this new, existing road, but new road, is relatively close to Sand Hill Road, we have to look at, I used to work for V-Trans, so this is why I'm bringing this up, is right now when that light is red on bottom of Sand Hill Road for westbound traffic backs through this intersection. So it's just something to look at in the future.
Yep.
It probably wouldn't affect this phase, but it would definitely affect when the connection is made.
North Wilson impact as well.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a signal there 2 years from now, maybe. But
It's moving 2 years. It was 2 years about 5 years ago. So.
well, 2 years is, because where I live, we noticed an increase in truck traffic going up to the food place.
Oh, Reinhardt.
And, well, it used to be Reinhardt.
Performance food.
And Blodgett. A lot of trucks. So this connection eventually would be good. So that's all I've got to say.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody online at this point that would like to ask a question or offer comment? And I think the Brooks family was in line at the beginning of the meeting, so.
Hi, this is Jennifer Brooks. I'm ready if that's okay.
You are ready. You have
Hi. Thank you. I think we're a minor commentary. It looks like after seeing the details during the meeting that the proposed the proposed development impacts the current trails very limitedly or not at all. And if that's true, then maybe our commentary is non sequitur, but I would just submit that we really are deeply appreciative of the trails being there and the fact that they're very kid friendly. And if there's ever, and we appreciate Alan Brooks ceding some to the town, if there's ever a situation where the trails will be impacted by future development, we would love to jump in on any opportunity to help donate funds to move any existing trails to a preserved state. We're really appreciative of that. It's a great little trail network and we're very thankful. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's so great.
Speak to that for a second.
Go ahead, Al.
On the last lot we
come on.
built, there was 2 trails.
Al, you have to come up.
On the last lot we built on, there was a few trails that went through that. Within days, the new trails were up and running right next door. So she can join in with those people, but you got to be quick because they really work fast on those trails.
I agree, but the trails also had to be shortened. So, like, for example, instead of just cutting off and killing existing trails, I'd be happy to help groundswell a movement and contribute to a movement to buy out that piece of land at market rate.
All right. We'll be talking with you soon.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
David Lee, 245 River Road. I'm just wondering, seeing the end goal is to eventually connect Thompson Drive to 117. Does it make sense to have the utilities that are available on the Thompson Drive end the same as coming from River or 117?
How so? How many?
You know, like natural gas, sewer water. Does it make sense to make so that you have the same utilities on both ends of the road?
Okay. Kent or Brian, you guys, either one of you want to field that question?
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, so sewer is coming up from 117. Not sure how we'll handle sewer on phase 3. A pump station may be necessary at some point. Vermont Gas, we have no control over. They basically run a feasibility analysis and whatever they feel they can serve. If you want Vermont Gas, they'll bring it to you. You just have to pay for it if feasibility becomes an issue. Power's on both sides of the street, and we're bringing water down from above because it's substantially shorter than coming up from 117. Water's actually on the inside of the Sand Hill 117 intersection. There's a hydrant on the northwest corner, so it's substantially far away. It's not like it's on 117 right now.
Okay. Is that covered? Okay. Are there any other questions online? You can use the raise your hand function of what are we using?
Zoom.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to we'll hold additional commentary for the moment. Bring it back to the commission and start batting this around. We've had some rousing discussions. You guys can come back to the table if you want. We've had some rousing discussions on a few topics. Knowing that there's still a lot for Public Works to be dealt with, I think my feeling is that the inevitable conclusion for tonight is a continuance. If for no other reason than Public Works, and for you guys to digest the commentary. I think you've heard the opinions, and there's a lot to go on. Basically, justification for the exceptions that Kent called out and or waivers as whether or not they're needed, and language as was offered or discussed? Is there anything else that we're missing from your perspective?
I don't think so. I don't think that the Public Works, I think Brian has already addressed several of them, but can't submit it in the short time frame. But I think we're pretty good shape. We certainly could get with staff if we have any issues that are insurmountable, but I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, there's a staff comment about a landscaping plan regarding the 100-foot buffer. I just want to make sure. So there's a 100-foot buffer on the eastern side of the property. The Planning Commission's opinion on buffers is that they be maintained in their natural existence.
The only places we've varied on that is on the street buffers, specifically on Corporate Drive.
Yeah, the fronts.
And the fronts.
But
those
rears
50
have always
foot
been the same. So that's what we're proposing.
But I thought we proposed that one just dead ends right there, and it doesn't, and we own property on both sides of it, so there doesn't need to be a buffer. We own both sides of the buffer.
That's part of the master plan.
So those could be things, I mean, if you have a question about that, propose it. and
Yeah,
then-
no, I think it's fairly straight. I just want to make sure, because the landscaping plan is called for. So our plan would be to keep it in its natural state. We talked about sidewalks. Good.
Kent?
My intention with the landscaping plan was just to show what would be along the streetscape area, the area with 100-foot buffer. The only comment I made about that, or meant to make about that, is the town plan currently has a series of maps that I mentioned starting on line 180 to just show where the existing proposed trail network goes, just so that that's highlighted on your plan. It doesn't affect your development area.
Yep. So we did a subdivision plat. So our surveyor independently did a title search under all the Allen Brook development. We didn't find that an easement had been recorded there, though it's part of the settlement agreement that it should be recorded. So if that hasn't been recorded, it will be addressed as part of this application.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting that there was an easement for the trails specifically, but just since the trails are shown in the
As part of the settlement, there's an easement.
there is.
for
Okay,
that trail.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right. And then I guess the only other piece staff touched on was, not sure if the proposal met the wetland standards, wetland protection standards. If you could go to sheet 6 really quick. So there are a few wetlands on the property. We've met Tina Heath, the district wetland ecologist, on site multiple times. We haven't applied for a wetland permit. Typically that comes after a local review. We expect to be conditioned on any and all state permits, but the only place where there's a road crossing, the water line crosses a few wetland areas, but you'll see here the roadway. So what's in blue is a delineated class 2 wetland. All right, so you can see there's roughly 30 feet, or it's actually 60 feet between the two. The district wetlands ecologist has asked us to shift that road about 30 feet to the east, so we split that wetland in the middle, and we're not cutting the corner of or creating a wetland crossing. She wants it just to be a buffer crossing. So our revised plans will have that piece in it. So that was the biggest wetland concern.
So it sounds like there's good opportunities for you and staff to work out some of these remaining issues, and by staff including Public Works and all that. Do you have questions that, based on the commission's discussions, that you want drilled into further? Do you feel there's enough at this stage?
I think there's enough, and we just gotta get together with staff and the town to make sure we're heading in the right directions with everything.
So with Kent?
I guess I just have one other question. I'm not sure if it's something that would help the planning commissioners or not, but I'm sympathetic to the cost of the road and how that is feasible or not feasible to do that. without knowing the cost of the road or the income generation from the beginning of your project when you start it, it's hard to know what would be feasible or not feasible. If your project's developed and you're getting a certain revenue and the road costs a certain amount, at some point it seems like the road would be feasible to do. But without the cost projections, I wouldn't really know if it's exorbitant or if it's reasonable amount. Would it be helpful for the planning commission to have any kind of statement about the costs related to the feasibility of creating the road? For my review, that's not going to impact my review.
I would be hesitant to necessarily use
tie those things
the developer's cost to be limiting our review.
Okay, that's not something I would look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered it by saying, you know, we want to have basically the projection of when you think this is going to be doable, and that's up to you, not up to us, and it's not I don't think it's a cost factor for us.
Okay.
Because if it's too expensive to do and we don't think it's right to do it without it, then you need a different option.
It's too expensive. There's no developer that'll do it if it's too expensive and there's no return, but that's a risk that we take. I can give you some numbers if you want to know, or you can buy the company and you can figure it all out.
It doesn't.
I'm just saying
it doesn't impact my review, but I think we're sensitive that we want it to be feasible for you.
Sure.
But without, you know, it's hard to know what's feasible and what's not. But that wouldn't factor into my review anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I'm not hearing that there's anything that we need to drill into more tonight, and the public hearing is open. So at this point, I would ask for a motion to continue this to the time at which the staff and I'll make a motion that we continue this to the next meeting when the staff and applicant can work out the details that are still pending.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We are continued.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
8:11 a.m.
3-can night.
Hey,
That's
Uh,
it.
Unprecedented.
that long.
I'm still working on
I
the
wrote AM too. That's bad.
I was over.
I'm gonna just pause the recording here for a minute.
wrap it up.
I'll send you the
Restart.
Oh.
Recording in progress.
Okay, this should be kind of easy. Other business. We have 2 items on the agenda,
Yep.
and I want to add a third
Yeah,
one as we're
and
done.
I want to add
so.
a fourth one.
Okay, so
Too.
A, B, C, and D. Go
All
ahead.
right, so A, zoning regulations update. I know it's just been a while since we've talked about the general update that you were all working on, and so that was some basic things like updating for the Home Act, so just being in line with state regulations, merging the 2 documents of the zoning and subdivision regulations into one. And then I think really the biggest thing was to just clean up the verbiage when you talk about a planning commission doing development review and the zoning board, and so getting the right terms, getting the DRB in there where it needs to be. So that's happening behind the scenes. Staff is working on that, and there are a few other little things that are thrown in there too. So at some point, then I want to bring it back to your attention to talk about. I don't know if there's going to be time before the split of the, before January. So I just wanted you to know that it's still in progress. And
If there was time to get it to the point to be deliverable, I mean, is this something we could put in front of the select board and ask for approval effective January 1, so that it's not something that we're having to work with now, or wait, we have an operating system and a set of regulations ready to go at the time?
And the regulations just need to go through the process they have to go through. So planning commission has to have the public hearings,
okay.
and the select board needs to have their public hearings, and
Okay.
so we have to follow that process.
So in other words, no.
I think it's gonna be hard. The planning or the select board starting really in November is getting into budget season too, so that gets busy for them really through January. So my conversations with the state say that it's not a problem if our regulations aren't quite caught up with where you are in your review. You just know that the DRB is taking over for PC and ZBA, so.
Okay.
Not essential that it's done by January 1st. Ideally, it would have been good, but just don't think that's going to happen. And then Development Review Board update. That is more, just I guess you all kind of know, but there were interviews held at the last select board meeting for 5 of the 7 members. 2 of you all, so Ian and Trevor, are going to be interviewing at the next select board meeting, which I think is October 7th.
That's right.
That sound right? I expect at that point that the select board would vote to, there were 7 people who applied, so vote to approve 7 members to the DRB. Thinking though from there, in particular, just trying to make sure that the DRB is ready to go day 1 in January for your first meeting, or their first meeting. Just having the rules of procedure, or just even the way that the development review is going to happen. It's different with the ZBA versus the PC. So just being on the same page. So I had proposed a while ago to have a working group, people from both boards working on it. I think if the DRB is established, the DRB people could be working on it. So it doesn't need to be mixed PCs. So there's that. And then I know this could be your item, but just thinking too, I think we're pretty lucky that you guys are on the zoning board, but you're also now on the planning commission. But there are a couple members of the ZBA who are not on the planning commission that really should be paying attention to these development applications. There's some complicated ones. So want to try to get them involved more in observing. They would not be in any decision-making position.
And I think to that point, as I spoke with Nick, chair of the ZBA, and I would like the commission and staff as a whole to basically encourage anybody who's appointed to the DRB. I was going to say anybody who had applied, but anybody, I think they're going to be appointed prior to our next meeting. Mm-hmm. Attend all planning commission meetings going forward for, just for the exposure to the applications like we had tonight. So there's some continuity because these applications, when they come back, are gonna come back to the DRB.
Right.
And it would be good for those, especially the folks who aren't currently sitting here, to have some visibility and some understanding of the applications. They're either gonna come back completely new, as if we don't get through this stage, or they're gonna come back as the next final stage of review, because this was only a preliminary that we're looking at tonight, so
Right.
there's still another round.
Which should be easier for them, but you never know, if it comes at final.
Final
But
should
again,
be easier.
there's, for those people who are new, we cannot expect them
Right.
to blindly or blanketly accept,
Right.
conditions that they haven't seen or been part of for discussion. So, I would like this commission to reach out to the ZBA directly and say, please attend, or I say ZBA, but for those members who aren't currently joining us, to come in and sit and just watch.
So that includes Sharon Zukowski. who's,
Absolutely. Yep.
Not on either board.
Yep, and just because they're the DRB designees, so, or DRB elect. And it would be good for them to have that exposure.
As much for the applicants as it is for.
Right.
Yeah, because
Right,
it's
right.
unfair for the applicant to go through everything. I'm just sitting here thinking about what you just said. We can't expect them to blindly. I also don't think that it's appropriate to come in and tank something that the town elected has been working with an applicant on, and then just because you're new to it and you haven't been, I mean, that's kind of how I try to come into it now, is like, I wasn't here for sketch. You all agreed to something that you were comfortable with. Let's look at what's in front of us now and not, so I think it's appropriate also that it's not fair to our developers and our applicants that we just tank something.
There is an expectation, I think we even have it in writing, that sketch approval does not guarantee preliminary. Preliminary does not guarantee
final.
But in practice, if you've approved a preliminary, any major items should have been worked out and identified and continued as we did tonight.
Yep.
Or the preliminary should have been nice. So final should be the final periods, and cross the final T's and dot the final I's and so forth.
Frosting the cake.
Frosting the cake. And there shouldn't be surprises. So that really is kind of where I'm looking at is, it would have been nice if we could have had this in place for tonight, because these are some of the challenging ones, but. So if that's acceptable, that wasn't me. If
No, the motorcycle he was talking about.
Nick's already aware of that, and I don't think it requires necessarily a formal announcement, but I think, Catherine, if you want to just drop him an email or something like that, or he may be reaching out to you as well. Because I think the other question you hit on it is that DRB folks really, what is their training if they haven't been in the planning, if they haven't been in the development review process? Are there training opportunities? And quite frankly, our development reviews are good training opportunities.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
And I think there's a ZBA meeting coming up here shortly as well, so it can be brought up at the ZBA meeting.
And this is recorded, so that will be helpful if,
you have show and tell at the ZBA meeting. It's like, hey, we're going to look at this application.
Yeah.
See how the chair goes off the rails. Anything?
I'm running at 1.5.
That's what keeps you awake.
Anything else we want to know? Other business, Catherine?
So I did want to note that the Community Justice Center, who is a town department, is hosting, actually facilitating is probably the better word, a couple public forums for the correctional facility. And so the intent is for them to bring together stakeholders to discuss the proposal, allow the community to discuss concerns. So it's not about the zoning changes, which is what we're doing, but it's a more appropriate place, I think, for the community to go to learn about the proposal and get some things answered. So they have two of those planned. One is October 5th. That's a Saturday. And then the other one is, we'll be sending this out on public media, or in public media. Second one is October 9th. So the first one is in person here, second one is virtual. I was planning on sending out this directly to the folks that came to the meeting that you all had back in August, just so they're aware of this, you know, knowing that they're already concerned and want to be involved.
I would suggest that, ask the planning commissioners are planning to go, that they just let Catherine know so you can keep track. We can't have 4.
Yeah.
I will not.
Is there going to be, is it going to be recorded?
I don't know.
If it was.
So the first one,
watch
it's not
that.
proposed to be hybrid. I don't think. It's just in person.
And our second meeting in October will be at the high school, as a reminder of that.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And then one other thing. So the kind of
Colombo.
busy days of October 3rd, 4th, and 5th. October 3rd is a second public workshop for the Upper Main Street Planning Project. That is from 7 to 8:30 at the Essex Middle School cafeteria.
PM or AM?
Yeah. So that's the 3rd, 4th. I think I had mentioned already is the GMT public meeting about the bus elimination, and then the 5th is.
Maybe we should just, as a matter of fact, if anybody's planning to go to any of these public forums, to let Catherine know so you can keep track. Nobody should hesitate to go if you want to, but we do have to be careful.
Yeah, and I think if you're not, you know, sitting together discussing business, it's fine. You're just there, you know, being a community member or just listening. I think that's fine. You know, I would caution though with the community forums. It's I think important for us to learn, but I think we'll have our own avenue to do that too. I don't want us to mix the two issues of the, you know, just the information versus the zoning change. They're different.
I think there's some not pro se, what the heck is it? There's some potential of conflict of interest if we start engaging
Right.
in the public discussions
Yep.
before our, you know, regulatory debate.
That's having to
Yeah.
do with this
Ex
one,
parte.
not next. Is that also true of the town center?
No.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
think
that's
so.
not a zoning change.
Right.
or-
So we
Yeah.
can contribute.
Yeah. Yes, and please do.
Okay,
All right, I'm done.
motion for the minutes of September 12th, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Josh, seconded by Shu. Anyone want to offer any amendments to the minutes as presented? And they were amended by Sharon at one point, so this has both site visit and meeting minutes
I
included.
think Trevor's trying to say something.
Oh, Trevor, go ahead.
Extremely small correction.
Don't say your name.
My name is spelled with an F.
Oh, did I put did I?
Yes.
Yeah, you did. You
You
did.
don't speak Welsh, so it's okay.
I just have it in for you. Sorry.
You need to go in and update your words so that it autocorrects.
Right.
No problem.
Thank you. Sorry.
It's
Again.
okay.
Okay. Any other updates that folks want to make? Sharon, you had a question about a motion. Who made it?
Oh, I found.
You found it?
Yeah.
Okay, covered. All good? All those in favor of the minutes from both the site visit and the meeting on the 12th? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The minutes are approved. I don't believe we have anything else. There's a letter in our reading file from the Vermont Gas Systems. It's just a notification. With that,
Move we adjourn.
Second.
you guys are like monopolizing this whole conversation.
sorry. I take
Moved
my-
by Shu, seconded by
Take
Josh.
mine back.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at
8:30.
8:30.